be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take a Bold, synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClane. So good to be on with you. Frank Pavone is our guest, the director of Priests for Life. You remember, we used to call him Father all the time, and we hope to do so again. Frank, welcome back to the show. Thanks again for hanging out with us. Praise be to God.
Thanks so much. My pleasure.
It's a difficult piece of business, criticizing Pope Francis, the Vatican, the hierarchy. I wanted to touch on that before we go to Donald Trump, just because I see some of the comments in the box there. And, and I can appreciate that. I've never taken pleasure or gratification in commenting or criticizing anything Pope Francis ever did. But it's not my fault that what he does is highly criticizable. And to those that are given much, much is expected. And when you're the vicar of Christ on earth, boy, you can make or break people on a global scale. And I just want to give you one more opportunity to comment on that, because it is important that no matter the difficulty at stake about being in the business of criticism, it is important for us to speak truth despite it all, right? Like we have to correct these problems because souls are at stake, right?
Well, Joe, you're exactly right. I mean, let's look at it this way. I have a very visible ministry, right? So over these years, people have written to me and they've said, oh, isn't this great how the church has relaxed its teaching about the gay and lesbian lifestyle? I'm so grateful to Pope Francis. And what we have to ask is that for the good of that person? I mean, is it good that some people, some, obviously not all, but we're concerned about all? Is it okay that some people have walked away now really thinking that the church has changed the teaching on this, and they are literally enabled, confirmed, and encouraged in a lifestyle that objectively, according to biblical and Catholic teaching, is sinful. It's right to be concerned about that. Now, we don't read Joe, we have to be careful, obviously, and we always have to be reverent about how we do this. We have to be careful that I never attribute sinister motives to Pope Francis personally, because I don't know. There's no way of knowing that. And we don't have to try to judge that. We're dealing with the consequences. We're dealing with real life effects. And we're looking at our responsibility, all of us as Catholics, to bear witness to what the true teaching actually is. And that's why, criticism, some of it can arise out of just, being negative, which we don't support. But criticism can also arise out of a genuine concern for the very souls and lives of the people that Pope Francis rightfully said we should be concerned about.
Yeah, well said. All right, so speaking of criticism, let's go to Donald Trump and his second administration, because I have been highly critical of this second administration from a pro-life perspective. I was very disappointed to hear them talk about in vitro fertilization, especially with J.D. Vance on the team. I mean, I was hoping and praying that, J.D. Vance, maybe his communication director there in the White House press secretary room, maybe even she could help Donald Trump better understand that we cannot support what is inherently evil. What say you about the second Trump administration?
Yes. Okay. So there's a lot going on, and a lot of it is not in the headlines. On the IVF question specifically, of course, you and I and so many of our viewers strongly embrace, and I've taught for decades, the church's teaching on the unacceptability of IVF. Not just because the process involves killing human lives, but just even if that weren't the case, it would still be out of line with God's plan for human procreation. Now, that said, this issue was thrust into the political arena completely unexpectedly, and to me, it's the last place for it to be. And we know that was generated by a court decision out of Alabama. So the politicians found themselves right away having to deal with something that the Democrats, of course, in the heat of an election cycle, were using as a battering ram. Okay, so but backing up from all that, going forward, is the Trump administration open to hearing why this is a bad policy? Yes. I'm involved in the Office of Faith. I'm involved in, I was just at the White House day before yesterday in the Office of Public Liaison. I'm part of building the bridge, and it's a good bridge between the administration and the national pro-life leaders. As you may know, I coordinate quarterly meetings of the national leaders. And I can tell you this, there's a lot of conversation going on. There's a lot of openness. You know, I served on both on President Trump's pro-life advisory committees for his first two campaigns. And there's a lot of openness to saying, hey, for example, one of the recommendations I'm making is, look, this is coming out of a desire to help families have children. I like that a whole lot better than the approach of the Democrats. Let's help families kill children. And right. The modifying factor here, the corrective that's needed, is to say, as I'm saying to the administration, look, there are all kinds of ways to deal with infertility. Look at Dr. Tom Hilgers. You know, the St. Paul VI Institute out of Omaha, Nebraska. Dr. Hilgers has been a friend of mine for decades. He has done tremendous work developing a whole arena of science called naprotechnology. Why don't we fund that instead of IVF? You know, so I think I'm hopeful because I hear an open ear on the other end of the conversation. I hear a listening ear. I hear an administration that sincerely wants to help parents have children when they're running into problems, and wants to find the best solutions. Now, at the same time, final point to this is, as I said all throughout the election, obviously there are going to be differences between us in our Catholic beliefs and what President Trump or others in his administration are going to say and do. And that's okay. I'm not looking for a president who necessarily shares my faith in every detail or lives it. I'm looking for a president who's going to protect my right to live my faith and to articulate it and to teach it. And that's where I think people who may be uncomfortable with all of this, and rightly so, should focus on this bigger picture. Nobody's defending better our right to make the public case as a church, as individuals, as pro-life groups. Nobody's better defending our right to make that public case about IVF or about abortion in general than President Trump. That what he's done with opening up freedom of expression, freedom of speech, ending censorship, ending weaponization of government, strengthening the churches, establishing a faith office right in the West Wing, establishing a task force against anti-Christian bias. They had their first meeting the other day. And this is not some kind of small side group. This is a group that includes the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, the Attorney General, and head of the FBI. They're serious about giving us all here on this program, giving us the freedom to say what we're saying, do what we're doing, even when that means criticizing the administration. And I think, Joe, that's the way that the truth will ultimately prevail on these moral issues and on every other issue. Give us the freedom of speech and we'll take it from there. We'll make the case. We'll persuade the public. We'll get the moral truth out there.
Is there anything you would like to see Donald Trump and his administration do different or better?
Well, one of the things I was just talking about at the White House the other day is that we at Priests for Life are launching a major effort to shine a bright light on late-term abortion, because there's already a consensus, as you well know, among the American people, there always has been, that, hey, listen, even those who say they're pro-choice, the opportunity to have that choice should end at a certain point before birth. So what I am hoping is that we're not pushing right now for the president to say, you know, I'll sign a law banning late-term abortion. But what I'm hoping is going to happen, and what I would like to see happen, is that as we raise public awareness, which I'm confident will lead to a public outcry that, hey, we didn't realize this was happening. You know, a lot of Americans will say in theory, oh, no, late-term abortion, that's terrible. I don't want a healthy baby of a healthy mother in the 7th month of pregnancy, you know, to be killed legally. But when we show the evidence, which we have, that this actually is still happening legally, I'd love to see the president come out and say, all right, you know what? Here's where we draw the line. This isn't going to happen legally anymore.
Yeah, well said. Frank Pavone, Priest for Life, thank you so much for being on the team today. Appreciate having your insight and your perspective. We're going to be praying that whoever steps on that loggia brings you back into the clergy. I think that would be an amazing thing, as well as all these canceled priests, bishops, Strickland, and so many others. There's a bunch. It's a growing category. It was a trend in the last pontificate. Let's reverse that course, I would say. But thank you for your advocacy in the White House. I appreciate it. I'm glad there's a strong voice there. Frank Pavone, love to have you back soon. God bless you.
Okay.